What if I told you you were training your brain every single day, not through some expensive course or through therapy or these meditation apps that seem to come a dime a dozen these days, not even through the books that you are reading, but through the thoughts that you consistently repeat? Because whether you realize it or not, your brain is always listening to you. It's listening when you tell yourself that you'll never get ahead. And it's also listening to you when you replay that embarrassing moment from 5 years ago over and over again. It's listening when you try to convince yourself that you're not capable or you're not disciplined or not smart enough or qualified enough or simply not worthy enough. And the part that's even more scarier than that is that those thoughts that you rehearsed and replay constantly, they eventually become the thoughts that you actually believe. The thoughts that you believe then in turn become the choices that you make. And the choices that you make start to become the life you live. Now, here's the most fascinating thing about all of this. Modern day neuroscience has spent decades studying how repeated thoughts actually reshape our brain. Researchers call it neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new pathways based on what we consistently focus on. But I want to share with you something even more mind-boggling. Thousands of years before neuroscience was even a thing, the Bible was already talking about this. Not using that specific language, but using something different. When you actually read the Bible, you'll come across scriptures in there. Is a habit so powerful that God specifically instructed a leader to practice it before stepping into the biggest assignment of his life. Not after, but before. I'm speaking about Joshua. Now, in the book of Joshua, it goes even more into detail than what I'm about to share with you. But just imagine spending years as someone's personal assistant. You are their trusted confidant. You're respected. You're important. People come to you before they come to the leader and ask you questions. And without a second thought, you give them the answers. You're not the one that's fully carrying on the weight, but you are the one that has an impact when it comes to making decisions. And you're not the one that everyone looks to when things are falling apart, but you are the one that they can come to as someone to lean on. Then one day, everything changes. Suddenly, that person who was above you and leading you and guiding you is now gone. So now, everyone that was previously coming to you as the middleman are now coming to you as their leader. Everyone is looking at you. The pressure now is all on you. The responsibility, the future, the everything is on you. Now, most of us have experienced this on some level at some point. Maybe not necessarily that we were Joshua leading a nation from a great ordeal, but it could be simply that we became parents or we started a business or decided that we were going to leave a marriage or just simply start something new like a career or walk away from addiction, right? You're stepping into a life where you've never lived it or experienced before. You might have taken a glimpse or thought maybe one day this could be mine, but not right now. But then you come to a point where the old version of you has to realize that I can no longer be that old person. I have to step into my new title, my new role, my identity, my new identity. And that is where Joshua found himself. Moses was gone. And the people were waiting. The promised land was up ahead of them, and everybody was looking at them. And as they kept moving forward, doors opening up, but also fear becoming more and more ever present. Now, here's the one thing that surprised me the most. God didn't start by giving Joshua an abundance of strategies. He didn't give him a book that said, here, this is the playbook that I gave to Moses. Now I'm giving it to you. He didn't say, oh, do this and do that, and then you'll just get wherever it is that you need to go. Instead, he did something completely different and completely unexpected. He told Joshua, meditate on my word day and night. And what we have to realize is that a lot of people will view that as, well, that's not helping me. That's the complete opposite of what I feel as though I should be needing to do right now, Lord. But what Joshua needed was encouragement. So God said, pray. Joshua needed leadership. So God said, pray. Joshua was preparing for war. So God said, pray. Why? Because God understood something about human nature that neuroscience is only now starting to catch up with. And what it is that the battle that we are constantly fighting is rarely the one that's happening around us. It's the one that's in our mind. It's the one that's happening within ourselves, the one that's going tug of war at our hearts and constantly going back and forth in our heads. And so before Joshua could actually get out there and conquer cities, he had to first conquer the fear, the battle that was going on in his mind. Before he could lead others, he had to learn how to first lead himself. So before he could step out and to be that new person, that leader, and be transformed into his new identity completely, he first had to stop thinking about that person that he used to be. And where was he going to do that? He had to first start with the renewing of his mind. And this is where neuroscience becomes so fascinating, at least to me. Scientists have discovered that the brain is constantly adapting itself to whatever it is that it receives on a repeated, consistent basis. So if we are constantly saying, I am going to be a leader, I am going to be a leader, I am a leader, I am the leader, I can do this, then guess what? Is going to reinforce that pattern until ultimately we step into that identity, that role, and we are now the leader. Because every repeated focus tells the brain, this is important, this matters, keep this, hold on to this, so that the next time I need it, it's going to be a little bit easier for me to access it. Push this front and center and don't put it back. I need this. Every thought has to keep repeating itself before it can believe that it is actually a trail. Every repeated action, every repeated thought, every repeated idea makes it easier for it then to become your reality. But the opposite is also true. You can create new paths and new beliefs and new patterns and habits, not necessarily overnight, but day by day, week by week, month by month, consistently. And that is exactly what the biblical meditation was designed for and designed to do. Repeatedly reflecting on it, questioning it, applying it, speaking on it, and allowing it to actually change the old ways of your thinking. And it's not in a passive way, it's in an active way, because you're not really escaping your reality. What you're doing is you're retraining your perspective. And this is where a lot of people tend to get stuck, because information alone rarely changes anybody. You can read 1,000 books in one day if you allow yourself to, but are you retaining all of that information? No. Most of us already know what we need to do in order to change and improve our lives, yet we don't. We know that if we want to be healthy, that we have to eat healthier, make healthier food choices, pick up those vegetables and fruits instead of those chips and dips. We know that if we want to lose weight, then we need to go for a walk and exercise and drink more water. We know that if we want to save money, we have to stop spending unnecessarily and save, and that we should forgive and not necessarily forget, but we should be aware of what it is that's going on. So many people want to have that change and get to the next level, but very few want the transformation. And that transformation is the gap between knowing what to do and becoming that person. That's why Joshua wasn't simply told to read God's word. He was told to pray and meditate on it, to speak it, to think about it, to live it.